I can't believe I read this much over the last 3 months. And that's not all. I read other books on audio too. I am shocked. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. We're gonna be talking about all of the books that I have read this past winter, cataloging from December through end of February. I don't really film a lot of wrap-ups on my channel. I felt like this warranted a wrap-up because while a lot of these books on here are books that I've talked about in vlogs before, there are still a handful of books that I haven't talked about, or like the first few I'm gonna talk about, attempted to film a vlog, hated the vlog, then gave up, and I wanna talk about those books on here because like I feel like there's some spicy opinions on some of the books. Okay, so want to throw some quick stats out there. I'm only calculating the stats for January, February, but I am going to be talking about some books I read in December too. So up through February 29th of this year, I have read 4,511 pages. That's the best start to a reading year I have ever had in my entire life, so I must pat myself on the back for that one. I've read a total of 7 books. Okay, in terms of genre breakdown, I have read 4 fantasy books, 2 romantasy books, and then 1 nonfiction book. My average rating across January and February was 4.4, which is amazing. I gave 1 3.5, 2 4 stars, 3 5 stars, and 1 book I did not rate. Okay, I know those are very like high level stats, but I just want to like pat myself on the back for like doing this well so far. I don't think I've ever had a reading year start off like this one, and I'm just so excited to talk to you about what I have read. Okay, let's get into the books. The first few books I'm going to be talking about are books that I read in December. And December was a time. So in December, I tried to do a winter themed weekly reading vlog where I was going to read 3 different winter themed books. Ended up hating the video and not loving every book I read, and ended up not even uploading it because I kind of hated it. So the first book I want to talk about, because I feel like I have a very, I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but like, actually I think it is an unpopular opinion, that I truly hated this book and DNF'd it, was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Okay, so this was a figure skating hockey romance between these 2 characters, Anastasia and something else. I don't even remember who. I hated this book. This book was chosen for my book club, like a real in-person book club that I have going, and it was literally terrible. I hated it so much. It's like a hockey figure skating romance. Okay, these 2 people go to school together at, I think, UC Berkeley or something like that. There's like kind of like this forced proximity about it where they have to skate on one rink, and they're both like very highly competitive athletes. As a former figure skater, yes, I was a figure skater in high school. I was not very good, but I knew the figure skating world and kind of how people got to the Olympics and whatnot. The author did 0 research on this book. Let me just say, literally none. She has no idea how people actually go into the Olympics and whatnot. Like, both of these people were going to be, he was going to go on to be a professional hockey player, and she was going to go on to the Olympics. First of all, if you are a person, I think there are college figure skating teams where maybe there are some people who go to the Olympics, but it's very uncommon. Most of the time, like private figure skaters, it's like homeschool environment, and they are like in the rink training all day, every day. It's like a very intense environment. And then also in terms of hockey, you don't go and play college hockey until typically people do juniors hockey in between high school and college. And this guy was straight out of high school going into college hockey. That is like very uncommon in the hockey world. So this author did literally, all you had to do was Google it and you would find out junior hockey is a thing. Like the fact that he didn't play junior hockey, did you even look this up at all? Not to mention all of those actual flaws in the book where like you didn't even look up how this world works. But I hated the characters. They were boring. Like the story was going nowhere. It was stupid. Like I just literally hated this book. I have never felt this like more of a visceral reaction to disliking a book ever since reading this one. Like I literally didn't care about the characters at all. I didn't even get to this part, but like apparently there's a scene where they're like going at it in an Uber. I don't know, but hated it, would not recommend, do not read it. I am like not a contemporary romance girly by any means, but like literally Do not read this book. Like, there are better contemporary romances out here than this one. Also, the majority of my book club did not like this book either. I think one person liked it. Everyone else either struggled through it or did not finish it. So DNF'd it at 20%. Never again. Literally never again. Look up your freaking subject matter, okay? Just look up the subject matter. Okay, that's enough about that book. I could just go on all day, honestly. Next book I read in December that was for that vlog that I ended up not uploading was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Now, I did make it to probably like 40% of this book, and I was really, really enjoying it. I was just totally not in the mood for it at the time I was reading it. I actually really, really enjoyed this. It was just like wrong place, wrong time. This is a book about a traveling night circus. It's really cool. It's set in like the 1800s, early 1900s in Europe, and there's this traveling circus that's going around to different areas in Europe, and you're following kind of the cast of the circus throughout their time in this time that they're traveling and whatnot. It's a really cool story, and it's magical realism. There is like magic in this world, and there's almost like a dueling magician element to it, which I really enjoyed. And I must say, I started listening to the audiobook of this. The audiobook is narrated by Jim Dale, who does the audio narration for the Harry Potter series in the US. Loved it. Loved the audiobook. I don't want to say I DNF'd this book, but I soft DNF it. It just kind of like, I was not in the mood for it at the time. And then I was like, I just feel like I'm not doing this book justice by struggling through it and trying to force myself to enjoy the read in the moment I was in. And like, I don't know, sometimes that happens with themed vlogs for me. Because I have to do it for this vlog, I end up not enjoying the subject matter. I just need to accept the fact that I'm a mood reader, and I want to get back to this book at some point in my life. I do think I would give it like a high 4-star, but like it was just not right place, not right time, you know? So I would truly recommend it if you are interested in this book. It was a really beautiful read for the parts that I did read it, and the audiobook was awesome. Also, the audiobook is on Spotify Premium if you are interested in it, okay? It's free on Spotify Premium, would recommend. Okay, and last book I did attempt to read for that vlog, which I did get through, okay? I listened to this book on audio, was A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. I knew I had wanted to go into reading A Court of Silver Flames soon after and like within the start of the year. So I did just like listen to that book as like a cute little holiday read. It was honestly perfect around the time that I listened to it. So I gave A Court of Frost and Starlight a 3.5 star. It was totally fine. To be honest, when I was listening to it, I kind of like was forgetting what I was listening to. Does that make sense? Like, I finished the book, but like, did I actually read the book? Does that make sense? Like, I read it, but like, did I? It was definitely my least favorite in the ACOTAR series so far, but I am glad I read it because it kind of gave a preface to going into A Court of Silver Flames. I definitely do not think it's necessary if you want to read A Court of Silver Flames after reading the ACOTAR series, but you know what? I read it over the holiday. It was a cute little holiday special, and like, sure, it was fine. You're kind of following the main characters of ACOTAR during the winter solstice, which like, it's cute. There's like holiday stuff, and they're like giving each other presents, and like there's lights and like a party and whatever. So it was cute. Don't think you have to read it for ACOTAR, but it's fine. You know, it's fine. All right, next books I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be kind of talking about all of them in tandem because it's an entire series. And that is the Crescent City series, okay? I binge read all of these in the month of January and February, and man, was it the best reading experience of my life, okay? I did a separate reading vlog for each one of these. If you've been following my channel, I'm sure you have noted that at some point. I'm not going to like give any spoilers or whatever, but I just want to give like overall vibes, okay? So each of the videos that I did do spoiler reading vlogs for each of them. If you are interested in knowing more of my like in-depth thoughts, like page by page, literally page by page as I was reading those books, please check out the links down below to that playlist. But oh my God, what a time, what a time. Okay, so let me just explain what the Crescent City series is about for people who are interested or don't know. It's set in this world where there's all these types of magical creatures that live simultaneously together. Okay, you have fairies and you have shapeshifters, or like werewolves and like dreadwolves and mermen and mermaids and like sprites and fairies, and like literally it's every type of magical creature you could think of all blended into one, and it is set in like an urban city. You're following our main character Bryce Quinlan as she is recruited by the governor to investigate a murder that happened that was a very close individual to her. So The whole first part of this book is kind of like an investigation type thing. There's a lot of like mystery and intrigue and just things turn left and right. It was so much fun. I had the joyous experience of rereading this book this year, and honestly might be in one of my top favorite books of the year. Like truly, I annotated the whole entire thing. It was an experience of a lifetime, honestly. Then went on to A Court of Silver Flames. And then of course we had the House of Flame and Shadow release. Now, if you haven't seen my vlogs or you don't know my overall feelings on this series, I'm just gonna do a quick, brief overview real quick. So I think this was the best in the series by far. Loved the world building in here. I loved the plot line. I loved the enemies to lovers, fantasy romance element of it. It was so great. I was so intrigued, like could not put this book down. It was incredible. Absolutely loved it. Sky and Breath, the world began to expand. I loved how we got to explore more of like the under the sea type of world. And I loved the characters in this book. The only thing is that this book kind of was slower in the middle half of it. There were a lot of like things moving, and it felt like people were trying to get to where they needed to be. And we also just got like more expansion of the world, which was really, really cool. And I felt like this was a huge setup for Flame and Shadow, especially the ending. The ending was wild. Like honestly, I was gonna rate this book, I think 4 stars, and the ending definitely pulled it up to a 5. That ending was wild. There were reveals that I had absolutely no idea about. It was so great. I loved every single second of it. The reactions in this vlog are absolutely insane. You need to go watch them. If you've read this book and know the ending, like please, I beg of you. I did give this one 5 stars, but I do think House of Earth and Blood was better. Now, got some beef with this one. Flame and Shadow. I gave this one a 4 star. The farther I get away from it, the lower my rating has gotten. I initially gave it 5 stars, and then it went down to 4.5, and now it is a 4 star. I was very disappointed by this book. Very, very, extremely disappointed by this book. This book was the finale to the initial portion of this series. And from the end of Sky and Breath, it's set up to be this like massive event. Okay, if you know, you know. And I was extremely disappointed by that part of the book. Okay, I feel like I can't even believe that people had to wait 2 years and like it just wasn't that explosive ending that we were expecting it to be. The best way I can describe how I feel about this book is that there were extremely high stakes situations that had extremely low stakes outcomes, okay? Despite reading the book and feeling like there was a lot at stake or like something big was gonna happen, nothing really big did happen. And it felt very predictable to me. And I was just very, very disappointed. I just was expecting more out of this book. It just felt like people were kind of overpowered in the book. I just didn't love it like I wanted to love it. There was so much info dumping and there was a lot of like things we learned about the world, but just like the way everything turned out, I was disappointed. I wanted more. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm giving it a 4 stars. It was definitely not my favorite of the series. Honestly, it was my least favorite in the series. I like the first one the most, but I'm really glad I read it. And like overall, reading the Crescent City series as a whole, like binge reading it, unlocked binge reading, incredible. But I did like really, really enjoy the reading experience as a whole. So was disappointed in the ending, but it's fine. I overall loved it. And like, honestly, it unlocked my love of Sarah J. Maas, and it's all I've been wanting to read recently, as you're gonna see in the next book I'm about to talk about. Okay, so leading up to House of Sky and Breath, I ended up reading A Court of Silver Flames. I gave this book 5 stars. This might be one of my favorite books of all time. I love this book with every single soul of my being. I can't even explain it. Again, did an entire spoiler reading vlog for this. Would recommend if you want to watch it. So yes, I did read this book in between reading House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. And I don't know why I had put this book off for so long. It's honestly a crime. I feel so sad that I was depriving myself of joy from reading this book for so long. If you have read the entire ACOTAR series and were waiting on reading this book, just read it, okay? I loved this book. This book follows Nesta Archeron, who is one of the sisters of the main character, Feyre, in the first part of the series. And you're following her as she finds romance, and it's just beautiful. She's kind of coming into her power, and you see her go through trials and tribulations, and you see her just like embrace the power she has within and like womanhood, and it's beautiful. And I cried my eyes out, and like I can't even explain it. She deals with a lot of mental health issues in here, and it was just, oh my God. I think the reason I loved this book so much is because I saw myself a lot in Nesta, and I just loved her beyond words. Also, the romance in here was 600 out of 10. It was incredible. I don't think I could ever stop talking about praises enough for this book. I need to reread this book immediately. I need to annotate it immediately. I love this book with my whole heart and soul. Like, truly, this is what got me to just over the edge with Sarah J. Maas. I will read everything she ever writes. I have no words. I'm absolutely speechless. This book is everything to me. Everything. Okay, we have a theme going on here. We got a lot of Sarah J. Maas, and that is not stopping there. I also read The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. After finishing Crescent City and kind of reading all of those books in tandem, I ended up feeling a massive hole in my heart where all of my Sarah J. Maas fiction was living. And since I have not finished the Throne of Glass series, I took it upon myself to start a reread. Okay, I have read up to Queen of Shadows before, and I have loved this series so much. But after reading Queen of Shadows, I kind of just stopped for a little while to read other books, and now I am about a year out from reading Queen of Shadows, and I've forgotten quite a lot of stuff that has happened in the Throne of Glass series. I've also had many other people in my life, like my sister, my sister-in-law, and a lot of my friends who have started reading the Throne of Glass series, and I just want to experience it with them. So I ended up restarting the entire series, starting with Assassin's Blade. I listened to this on audio. I gave it a 4-star. To be honest with you, I don't think I had to reread this going into the series, but like, why not? You know what? This is the correct way to read the books. It is. I don't care what Sarah J. Maas's website says. Assassin's Blade first. All right, I will take no further questions. The Throne of Glass series follows our main character, Selena Sardathian. She is an assassin, and you're kind of following her throughout this book as she takes on different missions, takes on different tasks. She is under the oversight of a assassin lord, Arobin Hamel, and you kind of see the trials and tribulations he puts her through, and as she kind of discovers her own power along the way. It's a very beautiful series. I have loved it so much. I think, honestly, Throne of Glass is probably my favorite Sarah J. Maas series I've read as a whole so far. I think it's the strongest one she's done. There hasn't been a book so far that I have disliked, and I have loved rereading this. I'm currently reading Throne of Glass and plan to continue on binge reading the series because that's how it should be done. Next book I have finished recently is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I read this for my book club. We kind of do a lot of fantasy romance stuff, or like romance, fantasy romance, contemporary fiction, that kind of genre. This was a very, very hyped book. One of the people in my book club suggested it, and I was like, yes, I've been wanting to read this for so long. And since I've unlocked my fantasy romance girly, I was like, yes, absolutely, let's do it. I'm really glad I decided to read this as one of my first like fantasy romances outside of Sarah J. Maas. I do think this is a good book for beginners. So this book follows our main character, Aurea, as she is a human who was raised by a vampire king. The vampire king has decided that she is going to enter this competition that ends up only happening once every couple hundred centuries or so, or once every century. Can't remember off the top of my head. But in the competition, you go through a different set of trials and tribulations, and the winner of the competition at the end gets a wish granted by the goddess Nyaxia, who is the goddess of this world. I did enjoy this. I did enjoy the romance, but I felt like there were some caveats to all of that. This was definitely not a 5-star. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, and I'm kind of debating a 3 the farther I've gotten away from it. I think the issues I had with this book, the world was not very well built. There were different houses that were explained in the beginning, but we never really got into how the world got there, the different sections of the world, what they all mean, the intertwining relationships between all of the different houses and whatnot. Like, you kind of had surface level stuff, but we never really went in depth. And I was kind of expecting more information to be revealed as we went more throughout the book. And I just felt like it lacked in world building. I did really enjoy the enemies to lovers romance, and I enjoyed the fact that it was not overly romantic, overly smutty. It was a very slow build romance where you really got that tension build up, which is the best part of a romance in my opinion. The love interest though, he fell a little flat for me. He was not someone who I typically enjoy reading about. He wasn't that mysterious in my opinion, but the book overall was brought down by the fact that I did not feel like the fantasy world building and world was well constructed in my brain. Like it just didn't feel like I had a good understanding of the world going into that competition. But this book was very fast paced, and I do think this would be a great book for fantasy romance beginners. The other thing I have to say about this book, so I listened to the audiobook for most of this reading experience, and I hated the audiobook. Oh my God. And I don't think she did like a bad job narrating it. Like I genuinely think she did a good job as a narrator. The woman's voice just annoyed me to no end. Like the way that she was saying words, it was just like this ringing in my head. I could not stand it. I hated the audiobook. And I do think maybe that played a part into me not enjoying it as much as I did because I was so turned off by the narrator's voice. So ended up giving this book a 3.5 star. All right, I have one more book that I am going to be talking about this video, and this is a very vulnerable subject. I'm going to include it because I've talked about this before and I had a great positive response to this. In talking about this next book, I also just want to put a trigger warning out there. I'm going to be talking about alcohol, drinking, sobriety, things that relate to alcohol and the drinking culture. I did read this book in the beginning of January, and that is Quit Like a Woman by Holly Whitaker. I feel like enough people have probably left the video at this point where if you're the real ones, if you're staying, and I feel like I can be a little bit more vulnerable now. So Quit Like a Woman is nonfiction. This is a book that's kind of classified in like sober curiosity, sobriety, and it is all about being a woman on a journey of sobriety and learning about how alcohol affects us in our society, and especially as a woman. It is written by a woman who has now been sober from alcohol for quite a few years, and she explains her journey and how she got to where she was. She explains big alcohol industry as a whole and just kind of the lies that are being fed to us about alcohol. I am currently kind of like sober curious. I've just done a 2-month stint not drinking, and I honestly feel incredible. I haven't reached the point where I am like, I'm quitting alcohol forever, but I've realized I am definitely changing my relationship with it. And I don't even want you to think like I was a heavy drinker before, like I would maybe have a few drinks with friends on the weekends and whatnot, but like I've just kind of realized it really plays with my anxiety. Like my anxiety throughout the next few days after having a few drinks or whatever is terrible, like not worth it to me. And I've just like hated how I feel after drinking. I hate being hungover, all of those kinds of things. In the beginning of the year, I was very, very curious about it, and I ended up wanting to read this book. Now, if you are a woman who is debating becoming sober or learning to try a different relationship with alcohol, or just learning about alcohol in general and how it impacts our bodies and how it's marketed to us and all that kind of stuff, I would recommend this book so much. I listened to this on audio. It is included in Spotify Premium if you have that. It was amazing. Like, this is a book that has stuck with me every single day. I've thought about this book since I finished it. I'm literally not even kidding you when I say that. I'm not giving it a rating because sometimes I just don't rate nonfiction books, but I highly, highly recommend this book if you are interested in learning more about sobriety or just being sober curious or just changing your relationship with alcohol. I've just been very, very inspired after reading this book, and I'm trying to find more books that kind of are in this quit lit genre. And yeah, I'm just on a new journey in terms of my relationship with alcohol, and I'm just curious in changing my relationship with it, and I'm not sure where I'm really going from here. I'm not fully committed to the idea of being sober completely, but I definitely know I do not want to be drinking. Even in just the social outings that I was drinking on the weekends and stuff like that, it just isn't something that is serving me anymore. So again, this is a very vulnerable subject, but I just want to put it out there in case anyone else can relate or is feeling similar or can even find some help from this. So loved that book. If you're interested in reading it, would recommend. All right, everyone, that is my winter reading wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am glad that I finally filmed a wrap up, and I'm just like so happy I am in the fantasy world again and reading Sarah J. Maas, and I am just in the reading mood. Like, you can't drag me out of it right now. I am truly living my best life. If you have made it this far in this video, leave a fairy down below because I'm just like in love with fantasy romance and the fairies and everything and Sarah J. Maas. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I I will see you guys in my next one, and I will see you later. Bye.